Sleep deprivation and chronic stress are two of the most powerful, underestimated drivers of ultra-processed food consumption across every stage of life. They distort hunger cues, overwhelm self-control, and amplify cravings for high-sugar, high-fat foods in ways that feel emotional or instinctive, but are rooted in deep physiological disruption. What makes this relationship particularly alarming is that the very foods people turn to under stress or exhaustion only worsen sleep quality, intensify stress responses, and perpetuate a damaging cycle. Adolescents, adults, and older adults each experience this loop differently, but the outcome is the same. More processed food, less metabolic stability, and escalating long-term health risks that accumulate quietly until the damage is difficult to reverse. In adolescence, the combination of poor sleep and chronic stress is especially dangerous. Teenagers already have irregular sleep schedules due to biological shifts in circadian rhythms, school demands, and heavy digital engagement late into the night. When they sleep too little, their hormonal profile changes dramatically. Ghrelin spikes, leptin drops, and dopamine sensitivity shifts in a way that makes ultra-processed foods far more rewarding. Tired teens gravitate toward energy-dense snacks, sugary drinks, and fast food meals not out of simple preference, but because their brains are desperately seeking quick energy and emotional comfort. Stress from academic pressure, social dynamics, and screen exposure amplifies this drive, making unhealthy foods feel almost necessary. Over time, this pattern contributes to weight gain, emotional volatility, and a distorted relationship with food that can persist into adulthood. The most troubling part is how early these patterns start and how silently they take root, reshaping metabolism and brain reward circuits during a critical stage of development. Working-age adults face a different, but equally dangerous dynamic. Chronic stress, whether from work, finances, caregiving, or constant connectivity, raises cortisol levels, which directly increases cravings for salty, fatty, and sugary foods. Sleep deprivation worsens this effect by reducing the brain's ability to regulate impulses and increasing activity in reward pathways that respond to ultra-processed foods. Many adults believe they are choosing processed foods for convenience, but biologically, their bodies are nudging them toward calorie-dense comfort foods to cope with energy deficits and emotional overload. Unfortunately, this is where the cycle becomes deeply destructive. Ultra-processed foods destabilize blood sugar, worsen sleep quality, and elevate nighttime cortisol, making both stress and exhaustion even more intense the next day. Adults often describe feeling too tired to cook or too stressed to eat healthy, but the deeper truth is that their physiology is being manipulated by the combined impact of poor sleep, chronic stress, and highly engineered foods designed to exploit those vulnerabilities. For older adults, the risk is compounded by age-related changes in metabolism, sleep architecture, and emotional regulation. Seniors often sleep more lightly, wake more frequently, and experience reduced slow-wave sleep, leaving them more fatigued during the day. Fatigue increases cravings for simple carbohydrates and sweet foods because these provide quick, easily absorbed energy. Stressors such as health problems, loneliness, caregiving duties, or financial strain make the problem worse by elevating cortisol and weakening appetite regulation. Older adults may begin snacking more frequently on processed foods not out of indulgence, but out of a subtle mix of fatigue, emotional need, and impaired hunger cues. Unfortunately, the consequences are harsher in late life: increased inflammation, worsened insulin resistance, and elevated risk of cardiovascular events. Processed foods also disrupt sleep further by causing nighttime indigestion, glucose swings, and heightened sympathetic nervous system activity. This leaves seniors trapped in a cycle of poor sleep, worsened stress response, and declining metabolic health. Across all age groups, the interaction between stress, sleep deprivation, and ultra-processed food consumption forms a feedback loop that is difficult to escape. Poor sleep heightens cravings for processed foods. Processed foods worsen sleep quality. Stress increases emotional eating. Processed foods intensify stress hormone imbalances. People blame themselves for lack of discipline, not recognizing that their biology is being pushed into a state where unhealthy choices feel nearly inevitable. The danger lies in how seamlessly this loop blends into everyday life. Late night snacking justified by exhaustion, fast food eaten under time pressure, comfort eating after a stressful day, or sugary breakfasts grabbed after a sleepless night. These are not isolated moments, but early warning signs of an escalating cycle that quietly erodes health. What makes this particularly worrisome is that many individuals don't notice the cumulative damage until significant problems appear: weight gain, high blood pressure, prediabetes, chronic fatigue, or emotional instability. By then, the physiological link between stress, sleep, and processed food dependence is already entrenched. And because ultra-processed foods are ubiquitous, cheap, and aggressively marketed, breaking out of this cycle requires more than willpower. It requires recognizing how deeply stress and sleep deprivation shape food behavior across the lifespan. The warning is stark. People of all ages are far more vulnerable to ultra-processed foods when they are tired or stressed, and modern lifestyles make both conditions nearly constant. Without acknowledging how sleep and stress biologically manipulate cravings and eating behavior, individuals will continue blaming personal weakness while unknowingly reinforcing a cycle that undermines their metabolic health, emotional stability, and long-term well-being.